I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Exodus, chapter 6, so let's focus on verses 10 through 12. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Go and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites go from his land." But Moses said in the Lord's presence, "If the Israelites will not listen to me, then how will Pharaoh listen to me, since I'm such a poor speaker?" Exodus 6, verses 10 through 12. Oftentimes listening to sermons over the years, I've heard it taught that Moses had a speech impediment, that perhaps he had a lisp, or perhaps he was tongue-tied, or who knows. The reason many give for this assumption is from Moses' own admission, "I'm such a poor speaker." In other Bible translations, the verse is interpreted, "I'm a man of faltering lips." So it's easy to see why theologians would come to the conclusion that Moses couldn't speak well because of some physical ailment. Perhaps Moses was not a great orator at that point, but in actuality, the verse in Hebrew literally interprets, "I have uncircumcised lips." Moses' argument was not that he had a speech impediment, it was that he had a righteousness impediment. Moses didn't believe that he was righteous enough to effectively minister. He didn't think he was good enough. And as I said a couple of days ago, Moses had a confidence problem. And we also know that there was nothing wrong with Moses' speech based on Stephen's testimony in the New Testament before he was martyred in Acts chapter 7, verse 22. Here's what Stephen said. He said, "So Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in his speech and actions." Acts chapter 7, verse 22. And yet ultimately, the greatest testimony as to Moses' assured success came from God himself. Exodus 3, verse 10, "Therefore go, I am sending you to Pharaoh, so that you may lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." Why is it that we must be confident in ourselves before we will place our confidence in God? Faith works the other way around. We are first called to do the thing that we are uncertain of. Then, once God has accomplished His will through our obedience, then our faith grows. God's calling is our equipping. That is to say, He supplies all that we need to accomplish what He calls us to achieve. And we may not have all the supplies that we need on the outset, but He will supply them as needed along the way. And as we continue through the book of Exodus, watch as Moses becomes bolder. His confidence builds as he experiences God's faithfulness. So don't be afraid of what God is calling you to. Be afraid of not following. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.